How long have you been waiting for the right version of yourself to arrive so that you can finally allow yourself to start living? You tell yourself you'll start dating once you feel more confident, that you'll chase that big project once you're ready, and that you'll finally travel, create, speak up, or truly live once you've healed a little more, achieved a little more, or become someone better. So you prepare. You plan carefully. You consume another book. You watch another video, or even tell yourself that you're getting closer. And maybe you are. After all, what could possibly be wrong with wanting to be more prepared before taking a leap that matters? The answer is nothing. Preparation isn't the problem. The problem is that life has a habit of continuing while you're preparing for it. Days become weeks, weeks quietly become years, and because nothing dramatic announces the passing of that time, you rarely notice what's really happening. You imagine that you're simply getting ready for your life to begin. But those years you've been treating as preparation were never separate from your life. They are your life. The ordinary mornings, the stressful weeks, the quiet evenings you barely remember, the conversations you forgot almost as soon as they ended. None of those moments are a rehearsal for something more important waiting in the future. They count. They've always counted. That's the part most people miss. Because waiting almost never feels like waiting. It feels responsible. It feels patient. Sometimes it even feels wise. You convince yourself that this season is temporary, that you're simply laying the groundwork for the real chapter of your life. Once you've saved enough money, you'll finally travel. Once you've figured yourself out, you'll start dating again. Once you've stopped doubting yourself, you'll speak up in meetings, share your ideas, and apply for the opportunity you've been thinking about for months. Slowly, without even realizing it, the future becomes the place where everything meaningful is supposed to happen. Meanwhile, the present becomes like a waiting room. And that's a strange place to spend a life, because waiting rooms are designed to be passed through, not lived in. Yet many of us settle into them so gradually that we stop noticing we're there at all. The strangest part is that there was never a second life waiting on the other side of that room. There never was a practice round, and there was never going to be a grand moment when your real life finally began. There has only ever been this one, unfolding day by day, whether you felt ready for it or not. So why do we keep living as though the real part is still ahead? Perhaps because that's the story we've been absorbing for most of our lives. From the time we're young, life is introduced to us as a sequence of arrivals. First comes graduation, then a career, then the right relationship, the promotion, the house, financial security, retirement. Every milestone quietly promises the same thing. Once you get here, life will finally feel complete. There's nothing inherently wrong with having milestones. They give us direction. They help us grow. The problem begins when milestones stop being places we hope to reach and start becoming permission slips to fully live. Without realizing it, we begin attaching ordinary human experiences to future versions of ourselves. I'll allow myself to relax once I've earned it. I'll become more social once I'm less insecure. I'll pursue what I actually care about once life settles down. Every promise sounds reasonable on its own. That's why they're so difficult to question. They don't feel like excuses. They feel like responsible decisions made by someone who's thinking ahead. But when enough of those promises accumulate, your attention slowly migrates into the future. You stop measuring life by what you're experiencing today. You now begin measuring it by how close today gets you to tomorrow. A good day isn't a day you truly lived. It's a day that moved you one step closer to where you hope to be. That's an exhausting way to exist, because tomorrow has a remarkable habit of moving. Reach one milestone and another quietly appears beyond it. You tell yourself you'll be happy once you graduate, then it's once you find stable work, then it's once you earn a little more, paid off the debt, saved enough, and things have calmed down. The destination keeps changing, not because you're ungrateful, but because the mind is incredibly good at adapting. What once felt like the finish line quickly becomes the new starting point. The promotion eventually becomes your normal job. The new home becomes your everyday home. The achievement you once dreamed about quietly settles into the background, and before long, the mind is searching for the next horizon. And if you're always waiting for the next horizon, it's almost impossible to appreciate the ground beneath your feet. Think about how often this happens without you noticing. You finally have the weekend you've been looking forward to, but part of your mind is already planning Monday. You finish one project only to feel the pressure of the next before you've even acknowledged what you've accomplished. You spend months wishing for a quieter season of life, and when it finally arrives, you fill it with new worries because stillness feels unfamiliar. The future has become such a powerful magnet that it quietly pulls your attention away from the only place your life can ever actually be lived, the present. And maybe that's the greatest irony of all. The future you're imagining never arrives in the form you expect. When tomorrow finally comes, it doesn't feel like the future. It feels exactly like today. That's something we rarely stop to consider. For years, you might imagine that one particular day will be different, that you'll wake up feeling like you've finally arrived, more confident, more certain, more complete. But when that day eventually becomes today, it still feels like an ordinary morning. You still brush your teeth. You still answer messages. You still worry about things that haven't happened yet. Life doesn't suddenly announce itself because you've crossed an invisible finish line. It simply continues, quietly, almost unnoticed. That's why so many people look back on photographs from 5 or 10 years ago and feel surprised by how much they miss a period they barely appreciated while they were living it. At the time, they were focused on getting somewhere else. Only later do they realize they were already somewhere worth being. Maybe you've experienced that yourself. You remember wanting to escape a particular stage of your life, a small apartment, university, your first job, living with your parents, or even the uncertainty of your 20s. You were convinced the next chapter would finally be the one that mattered. Then years passed. You looked back and realized those imperfect days had quietly become some of the most meaningful memories you have. Not because they were flawless, but because they were alive. That's the difficult truth hidden beneath all of this. Life isn't divided into preparation and reality. It's divided only by the stories we tell ourselves about which moments matter. And when we decide that meaning belongs exclusively to the future, we unknowingly rob the present of the attention it deserves. None of this means you should stop planning. It doesn't mean ambition is a mistake or that goals don't matter. Preparation has its place. Dreaming has its place. And working towards something better has its place. The danger begins when those things convince you that today is merely a stepping stone instead of part of the destination itself. Perhaps the goal isn't to stop looking ahead. It's simply to stop looking past the life that's already unfolding while you look ahead. Because one day you'll look back on this very season. The ordinary routines, the unfinished dreams, the version of yourself that still feels like a work in progress, and you'll realize something that seems almost impossible to believe right now, that this wasn't the chapter before your life. It was your life, and it always had been.